Tony Kail is with us, and delighted to have him with us. And Tony is anthropologist?
Cultural anthropologist.
Cultural anthropologist. Cultural anthropologist. Let me pull that microphone right up here. Cultural anthropologist, which is what?
Essentially, we study and communicate the ways and traditions of man and his habits and his practices.
Okay.
And so we sort of act as a go-between.
Okay. Now, that work in your research and everything is utilized how? Because you work with organizations, right?
Yeah,
And
actually,
helping them understand us.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that we're involved in is taking different religious cultures and breaking them down for public safety agencies and helping agencies, everything from hospitals to police departments, understand when they encounter members of different religious cultures what they're going to see, what's considered sacred, what's considered taboo, and basically to help the flow of communication between unfamiliar cultures and these different agencies.
Okay. How did you decide to get in this line of work?
Do we have about 5 hours? No. It basically being raised here in West Tennessee.
Okay.
Growing up, anything that wasn't, Southern Baptist was
Right.
considered very unconventional
Right,
in the hood I grew up in. So,
You're a Catholic? Oh,
so
St. Mary's had been here for a long time, but there wasn't a lot of Catholic community outside of Jackson.
absolutely.
So you're like, yeah. I was like, what?
Absolutely.
So you got into the study of faith and its impact on us and everything else, which led Tony Kail is with us, and his book is called Memphis, right? Hoodoo, right? Or what the exact title?
A secret history of Memphis hoodoo.
A secret history of Memphis hoodoo, and it's not voodoo; it is hoodoo. What in the world is that? We're going to find out. Tony just did a book signing on Beale Street just recently at the historic store down there.
A. Schwab's.
A. Schwab's store there. If you've been to A. Schwab's, you understand. If you haven't been to A. Schwab's, you may not. So stay tuned with us. We're going to talk to Tony Kail about the secret history of Memphis hoodoo right here on Blue Suede Forever. That's coming up. We're going to do one song here from Eddie Floyd as we make our way through, do some message, and we'll be back. So what is the secret history of Memphis hoodoo? If you don't know, we're about to find out with Tony Kail.
If you ever change your mind.
Check the time at 8:12 in the morning. This is Blue Suede Forever, and we are originating from the old country store, Dixie Cafe, Casey Jones Village, just off Interstate 40 in Jackson, Tennessee, at the crossroads of the American Music Triangle, Interstate 40 east and west, and 45 north and south. We'll take you straight down to Tupelo, Mississippi from here, and you'll have to get off the highway. So you come and see us. Some notes in news this morning. We have another candidate for governor in 2018. The primary is not until August of next year. The general election not until November. We are getting officially declared candidates, adding Randy Boyd yesterday, the former Commissioner of Economic and Community Development, who says he will seek the Republican nomination for governor in August of 2018. He joins State Senator Mark Green, who has already declared that he is a candidate for governor, and there could be many more. On the Democrat side, former Nashville Mayor Carl Dean, that's Carl with a K, has announced that he will seek the Democrat nomination for governor August of next year. Lost a longtime state senator. Former state senator Doug Henry died yesterday at 90 years of age. He was elected to the state house in 1954 and the state senate in 1970, the longest serving state legislator in Tennessee history. Chair of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, Doug Henry built a stellar legislative career, and there were favorable comments just coming in from people that had worked with him. And anybody been in state government, like Lamar Alexander or Senator Bob Corker, had worked with Doug Henry because of their positions, finance or governor or president of the University of Tennessee. Corker said yesterday that I first had the opportunity to work with Doug Henry in the mid-1990s during my term as Commissioner of Finance. I last spoke to him on Friday to tell him how much I thought of him. Declared the U.S. Senator, he was a true gentleman, a true Tennessee statesman. No one focused more over a longer period on the physical issues facing our state than Senator Henry. With a steady hand, wise guidance, he set a tremendous example of bipartisanship and integrity in public service. Lost someone else yesterday that we know. If you watch Turner Classic Movies, Robert Osborne was the face of that channel for many, many years, a specialist in movies and Oscars and all. He gave the interviews and the insights, the summaries to the films and all that. He died yesterday at age 84. Jackson's Lee Wilson and Hilmar Skagfield are escape house guys in this city. Won CBS's Hunted series last week. And Jackson's possession now of the original electric guitar of Carl Perkins, as donated by Dr. John Jennings, last week is getting us extensive publicity on the Legends of Tennessee Music Museum. That is the largest collection of Carl Perkins memorabilia in the world. So you come and see us. It's at the Carnegie Center for Arts and History, and it opens today at 10. Is open 10 till 4 each day, Tuesday through Saturday, downtown Jackson. And they are now the official exclusive outlet of the Hard Rock Cafe Jackson T-shirts, as authorized thanks to the work of Isaac Tigert by the Hard Rock Cafe. And you can get those shirts there at the museum. It's the only place in the world you can get them. And they are official because the first Hard Rock Cafe in the United States was in Jackson, Tennessee. Thanks to Francis Tigert and the Old Hickory Mall. Called Isaac, said, I want one of those cafes in my mall. He said, if you knew Miss Francis, you knew that's where it was going to be. Our congratulations to Haywood and Humboldt. They're going to the state boys basketball tournament. Haywood over Southside 62-58. Southside with a great season, but falling one game short. And Humboldt and Middleton went to overtime, 86-80. Portable buildings and outdoor metal carports and products. Where do you find those? Well, you can find those in Jackson, Tennessee at Cornerstone Coverings. It's at 1131 South Highland in Jackson, beside the Car Mart on South Jackson. Storage sheds, carports, outdoor buildings, and financing is available. Their office number for David, Sharon, or Mason Keene is 693-1805. 693-1805. Their cell phone number is 694-1915. 694-1915 for Cornerstone Coverings. Brand new in Jackson. Portable buildings and outdoor metal carports and products. Storage sheds, carports, outdoor buildings with financing available. Talk to them and get involved with what they're doing. 693-1805 or 694-1915. Part of Blue Suede Forever here at WDXI. AM and 1310 and 103.7 FM. One other note on this date in 1935, on March the 7th, Malcolm Campbell set the auto speed land record for 1935 at 276.8 miles per hour down in Florida. We got dragsters that will go faster than that in a quarter mile or less, 1,000 feet now, right, Tony?
That's right.
0 to 300 in 1,000 feet. But in 1935, the fastest man on the planet was Malcolm Campbell. The auto speed record set it in Florida, March 7th in 1935. Tony Kail is with us. The Secret History of Memphis Voodoo. Tony is a cultural anthropologist, works out of Jackson, Tennessee. His work assists law enforcement officers and others that are dealing with people with in behavioral situations to help explain sometimes cultural significance of things, or cultural patterns or thoughts or behavior or whatever. So it's very, 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 very valuable work. How did you decide to get into this about Memphis hoodoo? What attracted you to that? And this is not voodoo, this is hoodoo.
Yeah, when I was a kid living in Memphis, I would see bits and pieces. If we ever visited Bill Street or any of the areas that carried what they used to call hoodoo curios, the candles and powders and things like that. And I really didn't grasp what it was as a child, but years later, I would actually come to know a local root worker, which is basically a traditional healer in hoodoo here in the West Tennessee area, that was a grandmother of a young man that I used to go to school with. And so over time, being exposed to that, and then also doing a little bit of work in Africa and seeing the parallels between African traditional healing in Africa and what we see here in the South and in the Delta in hoodoo, it really started speaking to me. And as I started peeling the layers back on just how many people and how significant this culture was and is to West Tennessee, this amazing story opened up.
Okay. This eventually became business, in a sense, in Memphis on a pretty large scale, right?
There were those, after World War I, there were a number of manufacturers in Memphis. In fact, Memphis had, we know of at least 5 of the largest hoodoo product manufacturers in the United States. And what happened was, once it got to that point, you started seeing things that were typically created out of the home, such as incense and herbs that would be made into different concoctions, different potions, candles, things like that, started to be offered through catalogs and through sort of mass marketing.
Okay. And they had direct salespeople in some cases, right? Some of
They
these companies
did. In fact, we saw, for instance, one of the biggest companies that's still in Memphis, Lucky Heart Cosmetics. They started out gearing cosmetics toward the African American community
Okay.
because they saw that there was not, during segregation, there was not a lot of material
Okay.
available to that community.
Okay, couldn't go to Maybelline.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So once they started selling that and they started having door-to-door sales agents, they saw that this was a need in the community as well. So
Okay.
they started offering some of these products.
Now, we look to a certain extent. Tony Kail is with us, and the book is called The Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo, and he's just done a book signing a couple of weeks ago down on Beale Street at Schwab's store down there. If you've ever been to that store, then you understand a lot of what was happening here. But we look at natural healing now at two ways. I mean, our medical establishment and all that stuff, goes, yeah, right, okay, that you can't go to a healer or whatever. We're seeing holistic medicine make a resurgence here. We also know that herbs and all these other things that big companies take in the planet. Now, I mean, our cures are natural based, right, or synthetic equivalents of,
Right.
in many cases. So we've adapted this. We've just done it through sophisticated research and everything else. These people, it was acquired through their life experience, right? I guess they were taught by people who were healers. Or was there also a sense that certain healers had a gift, a spiritual touch to them?
Well, hoodoo itself, and let me explain.
Where does that term come from? Yeah.
Hoodoo actually is a term that refers to a blanket, sort of a blanket term referring to a set of practices that originated in Africa among traditional healers and traditional spirituality in Africa. And it sort of consists of practices that relate to obtaining love, obtaining luck, protection in many cases.
Okay.
And in regards,
So there's certain things I can carry or wear, take, whatever that will help me enhance my life.
Absolutely. Well, you remember a lot of the classic blues songs mention things like John the Conqueror root.
Okay.
Well, this is a root that was believed to serve as an amulet to give protection to those who carried it.
Okay.
And these practices, as we said, originated out of Africa. So what we saw is a lot of traditional herbal healing transferred when Africans were taken as slaves and brought here to the South.
Because Native American population, I mean, everybody had to survive off what they knew. Right?
Absolutely.
And handed down. Okay. The thing is, and to put this in context, because we haven't been here 200 years, Jackson, Tennessee will not have its bicentennial until 2022, so we're short of that. So this area was still in the hands of the Chickasaws 200 years ago. But when Thomas Jefferson becomes president of the United States in 1801, the population of this country basically is 5 million, and about 1 in 5 people is an enslaved African American, Negro slave. And that population that was pretty much east of the Appalachians is about to make the break. I mean, there's some here, but we didn't get settled till 1818 or so when the Chickasaw Treaty was signed. But this mix of black and white population is about to replace the natives in this area, right, within that turn, and bring all of this our way, right? This blended culture, or these very separate cultures but very codependent cultures. And so Memphis becomes a natural gravitational point for this, I guess, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw some of the first presence of Africans in Memphis with DeSoto coming down Mississippi.
That's right. Okay.
And so we started seeing this, and we've actually found historical record as early as the mid to late 1800s of some of these different practices.
So did that intermingle at all with the Native American healing and medicines and all?
It did. In fact, what we saw was there was sort of a relating between the two cultures, because the Native Americans and Africans were both oppressed people. They were both separated from their homeland, essentially. And so there were a lot of practices that complemented each other. And we found that, particularly in the Delta in Mississippi, there were a lot of healing practices used in hoodoo that could also be found in Native American practices as well.
Tony Kail is with us. The book is The Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. And so we got natural herbs and all this other stuff that come in, but then there's also this sense of healing or carrying something that will protect me, or look, or sexual prowess, or whatever, which we see late night advertising on that right now on our television sets every night, right? Okay. So it's all continued out there. We found these herbs in the middle of whatever, and this is what it will do for you. All right. But there was also this sense of spirit then, right? Okay.
Yes.
And then was there a negative side of it? If I can help heal you, I can also put a hex
Yeah.
on you, or somebody could put a hex on me, or whatever.
Well,
or somebody
typically,
else.
we heard a distinction between two different social roles: that of the root worker, the
root
one
worker
that could
who's the
create
healer.
and heal,
Okay.
and that of the conjurer. And the
Okay.
conjurer was typically
Was
the
the other
one
side, okay.
that could destroy things, that could bring negativity.
So if I'm a healer, I'm a positive. I'm a conjurer, I'm there for Mina since she can't.
If you're a conjurer, they sometimes referred to you as having two heads, and that was a head that could heal and a head that could also do harm. if
Depending
you
on the
needed
fee
to.
paid, right?
That's right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
People believed in this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was a
absolutely.
real thing and real part of this culture.
Absolutely.
And were also Caucasians who utilized these conjurers or healers as
Yes,
well. Right?
absolutely. In fact, in Memphis history, one of the biggest cases we talk about in the book involves a wealthy white socialite in Memphis and a affair that she has with a African American gentleman that basically resulted in a attempted homicide.
Okay.
And we saw that during some of the research that there were early healers that actually wrote in journals where they said many of our clients are white. And while for the most in the local papers and media at the time,
Okay.
hoodoo and anything related to conjurers or root work was seen as this horrible stuff that only the black community did.
Okay, so sometimes these healers and things were raided then, right?
Absolutely.
And they got press coverage, right? That these people are selling stuff that really doesn't work, or it was, I guess, under a fair trade or maybe honesty, our consumer affairs division would say that this is a misrepresentation, that there's nothing to this stuff, right?
Exactly, and that's where we saw two things. One, we saw what I referred to in the book as the war on hoodoo, because there was a period of years in which root workers on Beale Street and in East Memphis were constantly being raided and arrested.
Okay.
And then we also saw a change in the tide of things, that by promising some sort of spiritual gift or some sort of spiritual power, you were making yourself liable, because you might bring it back to me and say it didn't work.
Okay.
So we saw the change in the terminology. The word curio began being used.
Okay.
And this just meant I'm selling you a curious object. It may or may not work.
Okay.
So
that was my legal...
sort of release the liability.
Okay. That's the disclaimer at the end of the ad.
That's exactly
right? Okay.
it. That's
because we'd
exactly
seen this stuff in medicine shows and everything else. A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. Why did you write this, and what do you want people to get from reading this?
You know, Steve, I wrote this, and as it unveiled itself to me, almost like you and I sitting here talking, that I want you to hear this unbelievable story that we uncovered. But and I also want people to take away from the book the fact that these practices that were so ingrained in the soil here in West Tennessee, not just Memphis, but here in Jackson,
right,
were traditions of a very rich culture out of Africa that really has remained sort of clandestine for years historically. And I think it's very important that we take some of the lessons that were learned in how hoodoo was treated and how practitioners were treated, and how we look at indigenous traditions.
Okay. Tony Kail, Kail. People find this book where, Tony?
You can find it at on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and even Target now.
Okay, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Well, getting out there. A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. Because it is you will read about people that lived among us that some didn't know, that some did and claimed not to, right?
Right.
Okay, and all that stuff. But it's a part of the culture, particularly of the Mid-South.
Absolutely.
Mid-South. And it ties into all this. Tony, it's good to see you.
Good to see you,
Continued success with this. A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. What's next in your world? What are you going to write about next?
Actually, we're doing I'm doing a research trip later on this week to Newport, Arkansas, to do a little bit of research on a spiritual healer named Aunt Carolyn Dye, who millions of people that have studied hoodoo see her as one of the great spiritual landmarks of the movement.
To the point that you could catch a special train from Memphis to go see her, right?
That's right. You could get the Carolyn Dye special and ride out of downtown Memphis to Newport, Arkansas to go see Aunt Carolyn Dye.
So I want a Carolyn Dye ticket, and the ticket salesman there at the train station would know exactly what you were after. Right?
That's right.
That's fascinating stuff. Tony Kail, A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. And when you go down on Beale Street, go to the Schwab store, and you'll see the echoes of this.
That's right.
To this day.
You sure can.
All right, you got a book signing or anything coming up here soon, or we clear?
Not here locally. We do on the 31st have one on Main Street in Memphis at the South Main Book Juggler there in Memphis. It's one of the Friday night trolley night events.
All right, coming up the 31st. Send that to us, and we'll continue to keep it down. Tony, continued best. A real pleasure. We're going to shift gears, and we're going to talk to the Salvation Army. They got a special event coming up. We'll get details of that. Right now, we're going to get back to what we do here, and this is some more. This Sam and Dave stuff. It's soul stuff. It's Memphis stuff. And we'll do a little Sam the Sham of the Pharaohs. As I'm looking for a ring dang do. I got my mojo working and everything else. Right. That's all in this book. Go see it.